Hey folks, welcome back. The continuing saga, part 3, in the John Beanland custom rifle build in 7 Remington short action ultra mag. The Beast, as she's being called for now, because she's 15 pounds of so much fun. She just sits there and bangs away and don't jump around, don't go nowhere. I like that. Sounds kind of weird to say that, but if we were talking about other females, it would be weird. Anyway, this ain't no kiddie show, but we don't want to digress any further than that. Part 3, and we have now moved on to the step of what's called a ladder load. And a ladder load is very important when you're looking for accuracy. I mean, it all is. There isn't anything that you're doing with a weapon that involves gunpowder and bullets that isn't very important. I'll put that out there right now. Second point. You might hear me talk about specific things. Powder style, charge weights, cartridge overall lengths, and things like that. Those of you in the know about reloading, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you not in the know, this is not meant to be a tutorial. This is not me telling you you should try what I try. This is me telling you what I do. This is me telling you what I have learned, discovered, and found to be the case in my experience over the last 40 years of loading and reloading for firearms, okay? So don't take this to heart saying I can go out and do what he did with his stuff, with my stuff, and it should be fine. I don't know what kind of gun you got. You don't know what you're doing, don't take it to heart. This is not advice. This is not me telling you what to do. This is me telling you what works for me and nothing else. Any book, any data book you read on reloading is going to tell you first and foremost about safety. You follow the recipes. You do not exceed maximum limits. You do not exceed what the book gives you. If you do, it's all on you. I do not exceed those limits. I still got both eyes, 10 fingers, and no scars on my face from bad ammunition, okay? So that said, let's kind of get down to what we're talking about here, the ladder load. Ladder load is essentially where you take a bullet that you're going to test, and in this case, it's going to be Hornady 162 grain ELD match bullets. That ammunition that you saw fired in the previous video was fired, it was just built and clevered together just so I could have something to make the boomstick go bang. I needed to be able to break in the barrel a little bit, and I needed to be able to get an initial zero for the optics. That's all I needed to do, and do some testing, burn 50 rounds, and get 50 fired cases that I could start recycling to do my testing with. This ladder load is 10 rounds. It's the first bullet weight of the Hornady bullets I have that I'm going to test for it. Now, this ladder load's purpose for me on this loading is twofold. One, I'm using this to check the data in the book, because these powder charge weights in one book are a good 1.2 grains below max, and in another book they're right at top. That happens quite frequently between data books of different reloading component manufacturers. And it's due mainly to what powder they're using. Even though you might be looking at data for the same powder, it might be different lots. And one of the main things that makes a difference is the barrel they use to test. In one of these books, the books where the lowest charge weight for this ladder load is actually right up there at the tippy top for them, they use a Remington 700 factory gun. That's a Remington 700 factory barrel. It's whippy, it's light, it's on a mountain gun. It's not a proofing barrel, it's not a test barrel. In the other book, for the same caliber, for the same powder, the charge weight at max is 1.2 grains higher. That barrel is a Weissman barrel, and I can guarantee you that Weissman barrel is not a whippy-ass Remington 700 factory barrel. And it probably has totally different reactionary paradigms and isotonic waves and harmonic vibration levels and strength to pressure. So you see that a lot, and we're just touching on that so I can explain this. These powder charges in each one of these cases go up 1/10 of a grain. A lot of people do 2 or 3/10. But the reason I'm doing this at 1/10 of a grain is, like I said, comparatively between the two reloading books, Nosler and Hornady, the manufacturer of these bullets and a manufacturer of another fine bullet. In the Hornady book, this load right here, which is the lowest charge weight, is already sitting just a couple tenths off max. In the Nosler book, the heaviest charge weight of these 10 is 1/10 below maximum charge weight and most accurate load tested, so go figure. So what I'm looking for when I fire these, I'm not trying to shoot a group. I'm observing the primers in each case as I fire them. And I'm looking to see if I can spot the point where primers go from being just a little flat on the back with a dimple in it to being flat on the back and then starting to spread to the edges of the hole. As those charges increase, that usually occurs. And it hits a point where the primers are completely flat and the cup material has flowed all the way to the exterior edges of the primer cup mounting hole. I don't want to go that far. I want to come back off of that just a little. So each time as I fire a case, I'm going to look at that primer. And I mean, I might fire this first round and see that high pressure primer impact. If I look at the base of the face and I don't see any extractor marks or plunger rings, scrapes, I know it might not be too high, but whew, it's already up there. It may or may not happen. But as I go through here, as I fire, I'm going to be looking, and that's my main focal point, what the primer looks like, and if there are any extractor or plunger marks on the face of the base of that cartridge. Because if there are, that's telling me I've got pressures beyond where I want to go. They might be pressures that are workable, but I don't want to go there. And the reason I don't want to go there is because working at those pressures over time, reloading the same cases, is going to shorten the lifespan of that primer pocket. And I don't want to do that because I still can't find new brass for this thing. I've been looking for months. I still can't find it. So I don't want to overpressurize anything on these cases. And I certainly don't want to overpressurize to the point where I could damage the weapon or myself. So that's what we do on this ladder load. Now, because we're watching for those signs, it's going to be nice to be able to see bullet impact at the same time to see what's happening on the target. So I'm going to have this camera set up to observe our target. Now, you saw in the other videos I was shooting at those shoot and see splatter shot targets, and those are fine for what I was doing. But on this test, I'm going to want a much finer sight picture. I'm going to want to be able to take that little itty bitty tiny dot in the middle of that vortex scope and put it in the exact same place each time so that I can see by bullet impact what kind of changes I'm getting in impact shift. Those shoot and see targets that little red bullseye on them. It's only about as wide as a nickel. But that itty bitty dot in that scope at 100 yards at 12 power, there's a whole lot of room on that red bullseye dot for a whole lot of other little scope dots. Well, that detracts from your ability to really fine tune your sight picture. So I have a little style of target that I use when I get into points like this where I'm really wanting to fine tune, knuckle down, settle down, and keep everything positively still so I can get a good idea of what's occurring from shot to shot. And I'll give you a little picture of it here, and you can see what I'm talking about. It's a lot smaller than that big old nickel-sized red dot. All right, you can see what I'm talking about here. We have gotten away from that great big red dot and gone to something much smaller. Yes, sir, that's tiny. I have a strip over here about 3/8 of an inch wide that has a 90-degree corner protruding into the black. That one's about 3/8 of an inch wide. This one's just under ½ inch, just over 7/16. And you say, Brad, what part of that are you going to be shooting at? I'm going to be taking an itty bitty black dot in that vortex scope, putting it right here in this little triangle, and then adjusting my breathing and the bag. Each time I fire, I want that dot sitting right up here, just below the apex, the top of that pyramid. That's where I'm going to pull the trigger each and every time. In doing so, that's going to allow me an extremely fine sight picture, and should I pull the trigger and breathe correctly when that dot is there, I should be pointing at the exact same place each and every time. I won't determine which one I'll use, the thin one or the thick one, until I get out there and get set up and see which one the dot fits in best. That gives you a real fine sight picture. If you don't believe me, ask Sergeant York, because that's how Alvin York used to practice. All right, so now you understand my point of aim, what I'm going to do to try to utilize as fine a sight picture as I can. Now, like I said, the reason for that is I want to be able to determine what is happening between the difference between each shot, because each cartridge case has a powder charge that increases by 1/10 of a grain. Now that's not one piece of powder, that's a measurement of 1/10 of a grain. And they go in ascending order, and I'll have the camera placed to observe the target so that when I am firing, I'll be able to have a record of what each shot did, where it went, and I can collate that data with any pressure signs that I might see on the cartridge cases. Now, like I said, I could pull this one or the second one out, stick it in the gun and fire it, and find out that it's already got a higher pressure level than I'm really comfortable using. If that happens, that's going to be the end of the session, because I'm not going to go any higher than that. I might go one more, but if that doesn't prove to be an anomaly, then I'm going to stop there. Come home, take the remaining rounds, pull the bullets, dump the powder charges, reset them, probably drop back another grain and step them up the same way I did these, and then take them back out and fire them. I don't want to go past any pressure points. I don't want to exceed where I'm comfortable with the life expectancy of the cases I'm using. I certainly don't need to run these bullets so fast that they're melting the primer cups while they're sitting in the primer pockets and splitting necks and everything else. I'm not out to destroy anything. I want to enjoy this for a long time. So that's what we're going to do with the ladder load. And we're going to take it out here in a minute. get this thing set up, and we're going to get set up on a very stable shooting platform. Everything so far, you know, with that range ammo that I had loaded for it, just shooting off the hood of the truck, tailgate, toolbox. Not really worried about it. Not concerned with accuracy. And really, right now, I'm still not concerned with accuracy because I got 10 bullets here and every damn one of them's got a different powder charge in it. But I am concerned with accuracy from the standpoint of I want to know where I don't want to go. And if I find a spot where I have the kind of pressure signs that I like, that's the load I'm going to start testing with first. And when I test with that load, I'm going to test it at that powder charge weight with those bullets seated 20 thousandths off jam. Now those of you who like to talk about I'm into the lands this far, or I'm touching the lands, or I'm this many thousandths of an inch off the lands, all of those phrases, they're erratic and they're non-accurate. You can be in the lands and not be touching anything. And you can be touching the rifling and still not be at jam. Okay? I'm not going to go into a soliloquy on it, but Eric Cortina did a fine one on his channel some months back. And if you're interested in what he's got to say about it, and I happen to agree with the man, watch it. See what you think. It might give you some advice that you never thought of before. It might change your way of thinking. It might not. But he does things, and I've only been watching his videos for less than a year. I mean, I don't know the guy. He's a good shooter. He's a businessman. He's down there in the great state of Texas. But when I started watching what he did and how he did it, I noticed that he did things a heck of a lot like I do. I thought, cool. So, yeah, we agree on that. But my dimension here, and I will say it just the way it is, I have set those bullets at jam where I didn't just take my little overall guide and touch the bullet, touch the zap, tap, 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 zap. There's only one place I'm getting that measurement right there. And as time goes by and more rounds are fired, that will change. It has to. Your barrel is degrading. Your rounds will seat differently. But that's for somebody else to teach you. I'm not here to teach you how to reload for accuracy. We're just here to have fun on the chase of it. So, 20 thousandths off jam. And when I get ready to test that powder charge, when I find those pressure points, I'll load up probably 2, maybe 4 different charge weights. Set it at 20 thousandths off jam and see which one of those charge weights gives me the best group. If any of them give a good group. And then I'll adjust and tune the load using seating depth. So that's what we're going to do. So let's grab all of our crap, take it out, get it in the truck, grab the beast, and we're going to head out there and we're just going to fire 10 lovely little rounds. And hopefully we'll fire them very accurately, and we will fire them the way I want to with my aim point right there, and we will see on camera if the bullets rise or fall or group all together or what, because as powder charges change, bullets do different things. I have seen match grade barrels shooting ladder loads. I've seen 6, 7 rounds just go right there, never moved off. And I've seen other ladder loads where somebody had 9 rounds and the string was a foot long. So you don't know. Just depends on the powder charge. So anyway, let's get around, get it done, See you at the range. Hey, hey. Welcome back, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. I don't know how we did it, but we got a gorgeous afternoon this afternoon. Winds are pretty light, running somewhere between 8 and 12. We're firing basically straight into it, maybe a couple of degrees off. Got that target set up at right at 75 yards. I had to adjust for that because we're on a different station. I was going to use another station, my 100-yard station, but lo and behold, my buddy who owns this wonderful farm where I get to go play has got a bunch of cranes and heavy equipment out here moving stuff around for something, and I had to adjust which direction I was going to shoot. So if you hear beeps and whistles and noise and roaring engines in the background, rest assured they're all safe. They're way up on the hill to my left and behind me, but dang, I didn't expect to get urban sound effects out here in the country today. Well, I've got that ladder load here in the box. We're going to get this, already got the target set up. We're going to start running these bad boys out of here. We're going to start at the lowest charge first. And we're using H4831SC, which is one of my favorite powders. And that first charge we're going to start with is 58.5. And as I say in all of my other videos, anytime I talk about powder weight charges and things like that, I'm not telling you to try that. I'm not telling you that's what you need to do. That's what I've done. It's what I've started with. This is all on me. This is not a class, and this is not advice. This is not a tutorial. It's just me doing my thing with what I've learned from years of doing what I do. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and grab the camera and reposition it so we can get it down there and keep an eye on the hits of the rounds as they strike the target down there. That's going to give me good feedback when I sit back in the house tonight, review this footage, and I can tell from round to round exactly what is happening and where something went. Now, it's quite possible that I might fire the first 3 rounds and every damn one of them go in the same hole. Who knows? I won't really be able to know that if I don't have some way to observe the bullet strikes on the target each time a round is fired. So that's why we're going to do it that way. Like I said, this being a ladder load, every cartridge has an ascending graduated powder charge weight. These bullets may rise 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 2 inches, who knows? They may all go in the same hole. It's hard to tell. We're going to keep an eye on the primers as we fire. And as soon as I see a primer that's got a primer in the rear of the cartridge case that has signs of excessive pressure, we're only going to fire one more to check to see if that was an anomaly. And if it's not, if it truly is showing excessive pressure, then we're going to stop. And we're going to know we don't want to go any further than that. So hopefully we'll get to fire all 10 rounds, but you never can tell. I don't know if I've ever gone out with a ladder load set up this way that I got to fire all 10 without feeling a little nervous about the last couple of rounds. So anyway, without further ado, let's get that camera reset, make just a itty bit of noise. And we're using that Area 419 Sidewinder self-timing brake on there today, getting all of the advantages we can. Alrighty, be right back. Alrighty then. Well, you know, a lot of ladder loads, when I shoot, ladder loads have a tendency to string up and down, and you'll find a couple that get close to one another, a couple that do, you know, it kind of tells you where to start looking for your nodes when you start loading for accuracy. I guess if you want that to happen, you have to have a whippier or less quality barrel than what I've got on this, because as you saw on the impacts, first impact was right here. That was a clean, cold bore. And second was there, third was there, and I really can't tell you where the other 7 exactly are just by sitting here and looking at them, because that's a group that literally, I wonder if I got a quarter. There's a quarter. And with the exception of shot number 1, the rest of that group is under that quarter. I really think once I review the footage, I'll be able to see which rounds are really impacting the closest together, plus looking at the cases to see what type of excessive pressure signs I might have. It's going to tell me where I need to start testing. I think it's going to be right in there, because they all seem to really like that spot for the most part. All we got to do now is review. I got to shoot all 10 rounds. I didn't have any primers turn out completely flat. I had on the last 3 rounds, had kind of a firm bolt opening, and I had to give it a little so I'm not too concerned about that. I think those rounds were that one and that one anyway, so once I review the footage, I'll know where to look. But anyway, we got the chance to get out here on some real pretty weather on a nice day in Oklahoma without 25 and 35 and 45 mile an hour winds. I just wish I had more bullets to shoot. It's too pretty. Or anyway, that is shooting the ladder load. I'm going to go home and check it out, clean the weapon, do a little looking and measuring and playing and reviewing, and then next part in the series, I'm going to give you my after action report and get you my decisions and what I think I'm going to do as far as starting to load for accuracy and start trying to find a node. So stay tuned, come on back. Hope you enjoyed this little video, and we'll get another one to you as soon as we can.